Hey everyone! In my last couple of videos, I showed you two different upscaling workflows. They were really good at creating realistic skin textures using a two-stage process. Today, I've got something new. It's an upscaling workflow I designed just for fabrics. First, let's just look at some before and after pictures. Okay, let me explain how this whole setup works. I'm running this on a cloud platform called Running Hub. That's why the bar at the top of my screen looks different from your regular ComfyUI. If you are curious about Running Hub, I put a link down in the video description. Here's the image I'm starting with. It's pretty small, just 612 by 408. The first step is to run it through this Upscaler. Let's compare the result with the original. See that? Her sweater and shoulder bag look much sharper. In the next step, I use the 2.2 low noise model to repaint the image. This helps clean up any weird artifacts or problems. After that, I use an image loosely sharpen node just to add a little extra sharpness. Finally, in the last stage, I use the ultimate SD Upscaler node. This further enlarges the image by 2 times. The diffusion model powering this setup is SRPO. I covered SRPO in past videos. It's fantastic for generating highly realistic details. And here is the final output image. So that's the general ideas of how this workflow runs. Now let's dig into the settings so you can get the most out of it. Let's start back at the first group. The Upscaler model I'm using is RealWebPhoto. You might be wondering, why this one? Well, I tested dozens of different Upscalers. I ran hundreds of images through them and compared all the results. RealWebPhoto is one of the absolute best for upscaling fabrics. I'll post a list of the other good ones in our community. I'll share all these tested images there too. You can join the community using the link in the description. This upscaler makes the image 4 times bigger. But remember, we are going to upscale it again in the final step, so we don't need to make the image huge right at the start. If a 4x upscale is too big, you can lower it by changing the scale by number right here. Okay, let's move to the next group. Like I said, this part uses the 2.2 low noise model to repaint the image from the first group. The main settings you'll want to play with here are the scheduler and the denoise in the K-sampler. For this job, I chose the exponential scheduler. People use this one a lot for upscaling because it's the best at keeping the original fabric texture intact. Another good one to try is KL Optimal. It also keeps the original texture pretty well, but it will mix in some new texture from the 2.2 model. Now, if you don't want to keep the original texture, you can use other schedulers. For example, maybe your starting image was made by AI and has some strange, unnatural textures. You can use this 2.2 model to fix those problems. The texture it creates is very realistic. If you do this, you'll want to set the denoise value very low. Unlike other models, even a tiny value like 0.1 can change a lot. Alright, on to the next group. This section does 2 things. First, it sharpens the image. You can see the image loosely sharpen node right here. Its second job is to choose which image gets sent to the final upscaling step. You have 2 choices. You can either use the image that was just repainted by 2.2. Or you can use the image from the first group, the one made by the RealWebPhoto Upscaler. I added this switch because sometimes the 1.2.2 model can actually mess up the details. Let me show you an example. Here's an image of a summer dress. The RealWebPhoto Upscaler did a great job and added some nice, delicate fabric details. Then I tried to use 1.2.2 to add even more detail, but unfortunately it didn't work. 1.2.2 didn't add more details, and it actually ruined the nice details we already had. So in that case, I used the switch to skip the 1.2.2 image. I sent the first upscaled image straight to the final step. If you see that your image already looks great after the first upscale, just send it directly to that final group. This method can also give you amazing details. Let's look at the final picture from that. The last group uses an ultimate SD upscale node. You can set the upscale by number here to decide how much bigger you want to make it. Now you'll notice I plugged in a custom sampler and a custom sigmas. Because of that, we need to change the settings in these nodes, not in that case sampler. As I said before, the best schedulers are exponential and KL optimal, but if you don't mind changing the original texture, feel free to try other ones. The steps should always be set to 8. This is because we are using a Turbo LoRa. I'm also using the Detail Daemon sampler to add even more detail. You can control how much detail it adds by changing the detail amount setting. One last tip, if you don't have a lot of VRAM on your graphic card, you can use the GGUF version of the SRPO model. Okay, that's everything for this video. If you want to download this workflow, please consider joining our community and support my work. You'll find a link to the community in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one.